The rain fell like a quiet warning that morning, soft but relentless, washing over the long cobblestone driveway of the Colburn estate nestled deep in the hills of Connecticut. The black Bentley, polished to a mirror finish, rolled to a halt outside the massive wrought iron gates just before 6 a.m. Inside sat a man the world rarely saw in person anymore. Maxwell Colburn, tech billionaire, media mogul, and self-made empire builder, wore a simple charcoal trench coat, his salt and pepper beard neatly trimmed, his eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. No entourage, no press, no notice. Just a sudden decision in the middle of the night to return to the home he hadn't stepped foot in for nearly 14 months. The driver, a discreet man from Geneva whose name Maxwell still hadn't bothered to learn, waited silently as Maxwell tapped a code into the gate's console. The gates parted like jaws, revealing the sprawling estate, a mansion of glass and stone perched on a hill like a fortress. Impressive from a distance, but to Maxwell, it had started to feel like a mausoleum. He had left it behind after the divorce, handing the daily management to staff and focusing on expansion into the Asian markets. His ex-wife had taken her share, the lawyers had done their war dance, and his only daughter, Alina, barely 15, had been left behind in the care of tutors, chefs, and staff. And Beatrice, he hadn't thought of her in months. Just a name buried in the payroll sheets. Beatrice M. Johnson, domestic support, live-in. That's how she appeared on the records, if at all. A dark-skinned, soft-spoken woman who had once asked Maxwell, after just a week of working there, if he believed his daughter was happy. That question had stung more than he'd ever let on. He had dismissed her, gently but firmly, as one would a well-meaning fool. Now, as he stepped out of the car, cold wind curling under his collar, something about the silence of the place unsettled him. The house should have been stirring. Alina had early piano practice every Thursday, followed by breakfast on the sun terrace. But no one was outside. No lights on in the east wing. No movement in the servants' quarters. Just the tall windows reflecting gray skies and the faintest flicker of movement deep inside the parlor. He didn't ring the bell. He had a key. The front door creaked open into a strangely warm, cinnamon-scented foyer. That smell, it wasn't from the staff menu. It was something homemade, something he hadn't smelled in that house in years. His shoes echoed across the marble. The grandfather clock read 6:11. A soft humming, like a lullaby, floated from somewhere beyond the dining room. A woman's voice. He moved carefully, silently, through the halls. Every painting stared at him like an old accusation. When he turned the corner, expecting to find perhaps a cleaner tidying up or a new cook breaking the rules of breakfast protocol, he froze. In the center of the parlor, wearing a flour-dusted apron and her hair wrapped in a bright yellow scarf, stood Beatrice. She held a mixing bowl in one hand and a wooden spoon in the other, swaying gently to the rhythm of her own humming. And in front of her, on the floor, on a plush blanket, giggling and throwing flour into the air like snow, was Alina. Maxwell blinked. The girl didn't look like she had 15 months ago. She looked alive, bright-eyed. Her hair no longer hung in a dull curtain but was tied up in playful braids. She wore a pink hoodie splattered with batter. And she laughed, freely, without that stilted, mechanical politeness that had crept in during her last few years at private school. Beatrice saw him first. Her eyes widened, not with fear, but recognition. She nodded once, respectfully, not nervously, then turned back to Alina, who had just noticed him and stopped mid-laugh. "Daddy," she said, stunned, the way someone might speak to a ghost. Maxwell took a step forward, stunned silent, then knelt down to her level. "Alina," he said, softly. She stared. Then something inside her cracked. She ran to him, threw her arms around his neck, and began to cry. Over her shoulder, Beatrice stood quietly, folding her arms, watching. Something was off, not in a dangerous way, but in a way Maxwell couldn't quite name. His daughter was different. She was glowing. And this Maid, this woman he had barely acknowledged, was at the center of it all. He had returned unannounced, but it was already clear. This was no longer his house. It was hers. Maxwell held Alina longer than he'd intended. Her small arms clutched him with a kind of desperation that made his chest tighten. She wasn't supposed to miss him this much. He had ensured she'd have everything in his absence. tutors from Switzerland, therapists on call, a nutritionist, even a robotics coach. Everything except presence. Except him. As he rose to his feet with her still wrapped around him like a vine clinging to the last stable pillar, Beatrice quietly stepped forward, reaching for the mixing bowl and setting it aside. "I didn't expect you until next month," she said. Her voice was calm, but edged with something else. Firmness. Not hostility. Just grounded. "I didn't expect to come at all," Maxwell replied, brushing flour from Alina's shoulder. "Clearly," Beatrice said. Maxwell studied her in full now. Her posture was strong. She stood like someone who had learned to command rooms without ever raising her voice. She was no longer the shy woman he vaguely remembered hiring through an agency. No, this woman was something else. What is going on here?" he asked, trying not to let suspicion creep into his voice. Beatrice raised an eyebrow. "Breakfast? I mean with my daughter. With you. You're not just cleaning floors in a mall." "No," she said, her tone unfazed. "I'm raising your daughter." Maxwell blinked. "Excuse me." Alina pulled away, just slightly. "Daddy, it's true. Miss BEA, she's the one who's been here every morning. Every night. When I had nightmares. When I got sick. She even helped me with that physics project." Maxwell turned back to Beatrice. "That's a tutor's job." "The tutor left after 3 months," Beatrice said. "You didn't notice." He hadn't. There was a strange silence between them, and the only sound was a grandfather clock in the hallway marking the seconds like footsteps approaching from a long corridor. "I want to talk," Maxwell said. "Finally. In private." Beatrice glanced at Alina, then at the kitchen. "I'm baking cinnamon rolls. She can help glaze them. Then she'll take them up to Ms. Gerda." "Who?" "The upstairs maid. She's recovering from knee surgery. Alina brings her breakfast every morning." Maxwell was stunned speechless. This wasn't the daughter he'd left behind. This was someone new. And Beatrice was at the center of it all. In the study, with the door closed and the fireplace still smoldering from last night's coals, Beatrice stood tall as Maxwell paced. "I hired you to clean, not to parent," he began. "You hired me to be invisible. But children see everything," she said. "What are you saying? That I abandoned her?" Beatrice didn't answer. Instead, she pulled something from her apron. A small, folded piece of construction paper. Glitter stuck to its edges. She handed it to him wordlessly. Maxwell unfolded it slowly. Inside, written in purple marker in a child's careful hand. "Dear Miss BEA, you're the real mom now. I love you more than pancakes. Love, Alina." His throat tightened. "I never showed her that," Beatrice said. "She doesn't know I kept it." He sat down slowly in the leather armchair. "Why did she write this?" "Because I held her hand when no one else did. Because when her mother left and you buried yourself in soul in San Francisco, she cried herself to sleep, and I was the only one who stayed." Maxwell looked up at her. "Why? Why would you do all this? You're not family." "I was once," Beatrice said softly. He stared at her, confused. Then recognition flickered, dim and distant, like a light far down a tunnel. "No, it can't be." She nodded. 20 years ago, before the money, before the IPO, I worked for your father. You were a boy then, and I was just a cleaner in a small apartment in Brooklyn, until you saw me crying in the stairwell. Do you remember what you said?" Maxwell tried to reach back through the fog of memory. The image was faint. A boy, maybe 9 years old. The sound of muffled sobs. A woman with trembling hands. He had handed her a peanut butter sandwich. "You said, 'Don't cry. One day I'll buy a castle and you can live in it, and you'll never be sad again.'" She looked at him. "And here we are." He sat motionless. "You forgot me," she continued. "But I never forgot you." He shook his head slowly. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "I didn't need to. I didn't come back into your life for gratitude. I came because the agency placed me here. And when I saw Alina, so small, so lost, I remember the boy who once fed me when I had nothing. I decided to stay." The silence in the room cracked like a mirror. Maxwell looked around his study, so full of trophies, awards, screens, stock tickers, but completely empty of life. She saved me, Max, a small voice said behind him. He turned. Alina stood in the doorway, holding a tray of cinnamon rolls. I thought I was broken, like a doll that no one wanted to play with anymore. But Miss BEA fixed me. She told me I was a girl made of sunlight. No one ever said that to me before. Maxwell reached for the arms of his chair to steady himself. I don't know who you are anymore, he said, his voice shaking. Either of you. Beatrice stepped forward and gently took the tray from Alina's hands, then handed it to him. Taste one. He hesitated, then took a bite, and something happened. It wasn't the flavor, though the cinnamon was perfect. It wasn't the texture, though it melted like warmth itself. It was a memory of a kitchen in Brooklyn, of sunlight through a dainty window, of a woman who had cried and smiled all in the same moment. He looked up at Beatrice, his eyes wide. You made these back then? Yes, she whispered. And you never forgot the taste, even if you forgot me. Maxwell rose slowly from the chair. I don't know what this house has become. I don't know what I've lost. Beatrice stepped back. You haven't lost anything, yet. That word hung in the air. Yet. Beatrice opened the study door. Alina has been accepted to a school in Ghana, a girls' academy focused on global leadership. I applied for her. She's been waiting to tell you, but she didn't know if you'd ever come home. Maxwell looked at his daughter, stunned. You want to leave? Alina hesitated, then nodded. Only if Miss BEA comes with me. Maxwell was speechless. You're trying to take her away from me, he said quietly. Beatrice turned. No, you gave her away. I just picked up the pieces. Maxwell stood frozen, holding the cinnamon roll in his hand like it weighed 1,000 pounds. His grip tightened slightly as he turned his eyes toward his daughter, his only child, whose soft eyes no longer sparkled with need, but with quiet defiance. She was no longer asking permission. She was telling him her truth. No, he said at last, the word flat and final. You're not going to Ghana. Alina looked at Beatrice, and then back at him. Why not? Because I said so. He snapped. Beatrice stepped forward, her tone still calm but with iron beneath it. She earned her place. She was one of 5 girls selected globally. You should be proud of her. I am proud, he snapped, louder this time. But she's 15, and I am her father, and I will not, cannot, let you just take her across the world. Alina flinched. Beatrice didn't. You haven't been her father for a long time, Beatrice said evenly. But that doesn't mean it's too late to become one. There was silence, the kind that rang louder than shouting. Maxwell sank onto the edge of the chaise lounge, rubbing his temples. How long has this been planned? She was accepted 3 weeks ago, Beatrice said. She wanted to tell you. She wrote you letters, emails. You never replied. His breath caught. He opened his phone, pulled up his inbox. There they were, filtered into a separate folder, flagged as miscellaneous. Subject, from me, Alina. Subject, Dad, I got in. Please read. Subject, it's a girls' leadership school. In Africa. Just listen. Okay? He felt as though the walls of the room were closing in on him. I'm sorry, he said, eyes darting across the screen. I didn't see these. That's the problem, Beatrice said gently. You don't see. Maxwell looked up, his voice suddenly hoarse. What did I miss? Beatrice sighed. You missed your daughter's first cello recital, her first panic attack, the time she got her first period and thought she was dying. You missed her birthday last year. You missed when she won first place at the county science fair because she built a solar-powered desalinator. You missed her. His head hung. She used to wait by the driveway every Saturday, Beatrice continued. For months, she thought maybe you'd surprise her. After a while, she stopped waiting, but she never stopped hoping. Maxwell's hands clenched. He didn't remember the last time someone had spoken to him this way, not as a CEO, not as a figurehead or a billionaire, but as a man, a failing one. Beatrice turned to leave. You don't have to let her go. You just have to let her grow. The door clicked softly behind her. Alina lingered for a moment longer. I don't hate you, she said quietly. I just don't really know you anymore. He looked up at her, eyes brimming. Then let me try. She smiled faintly. You'll have to start fast. We leave in 10 days. Maxwell didn't sleep that night. He wandered the halls like a ghost, memories drifting through each room. The master bedroom still smelled faintly of his ex-wife perfume. The hallway to the west wing had a tiny handprint in the paint. Alina, when she was 4. He had yelled at the maid then. Hadn't realized it was a little signature of joy. In the early hours, he ended up in the security room. Dozens of screens flickered, camera footage from every angle of the estate. He found himself rewinding clips, watching footage of the past few months. And that's when he saw it. Beatrice and Alina, sitting on the swing set. Beatrice handing her a small black book. Alina crying. Beatrice hugging her. Not like a maid comforting a child. Like a mother holding her own. He fast-forwarded to another scene. Alina helping Gerda up the stairs with a walker. Beatrice watching nearby, proud. Then, another clip. Alina practicing a speech in front of the mirror. My name is Alina Colburn, and I believe young girls can build the future. He stared at the screen as if watching someone else's life. His daughter had become something extraordinary, and he hadn't seen a second of it. In the days that followed, he asked her to join him for breakfast. She did. He offered to take her to the planetarium. She said she had work to do, but maybe another time. He even asked Beatrice to teach him how to make the cinnamon rolls. They baked in silence. I don't know how to talk to her anymore, he confessed, watching the dough rise. You listen first, Beatrice replied. Then words come easier. He nodded. The house changed. Slowly, quietly. Rooms once dark were filled with music again. Alina practicing cello. Laughter from the kitchen. Even Gerda came down for dinner one night. And then, 2 days before the flight, Beatrice packed her suitcase. Maxwell found her in the garden. The sun was setting. Alina was chasing fireflies with a jar in her hand. I came to ask you something, he said. She toned, still in her yellow head wrap. I want you to stay, he said. I'm going with her, she said. No, he said. I want you both to stay. I'll make changes. I'll move things around. I'll be better. Beatrice looked him in the eyes. You want to be the hero now, but that only works if you've been in the fight. He stepped forward. Then let me fight now. She sighed. I believe you mean it, but it's not about what you want anymore. It's about what she needs. They both looked at Alina. Maxwell's voice trembled. I'm scared to let her go. I know, Beatrice said. So was I, but she's ready. He nodded slowly, tears silently tracing down his cheeks. Then go with her. Please, be what I couldn't be. I already am, she said softly. But I'll go for her. Maxwell extended a hand. She took it. I remember now, he whispered. That sandwich, that promise. Beatrice smiled gently. You kept it, just not the way you expected. At the airport, 10 days later, Maxwell walked Alina to the gate. He hugged her tighter than he ever had. I'll write you, he said, every week. You better, she smiled, wiping a tear, or Miss BEA will come back and scold you. They laughed, together. As she turned to leave, Maxwell looked at Beatrice. Thank you, he said, for saving her. Beatrice touched his shoulder. No, she said, she saved me. The final boarding call echoed through the terminal. Maxwell stood alone, watching as the two most important people in his world walked into the unknown. A new chapter, a new family, a new hope. He had returned home unannounced. But it was what the maid did for his daughter, for him, and for herself that changed everything. The plane soared above the Atlantic, and with every mile that passed beneath the clouds, Alina felt lighter. Her fingers traced the edge of the window as dawn crept up over the horizon. Beside her, Beatrice dozed lightly, her scarf slightly undone, her hand resting over Alina's with quiet protection. Maxwell had kept his word. for the first 3 weeks. Letters came on time, handwritten, emotional, and raw. He told her stories of his childhood, of his regrets, of his dreams for her. Alina cried the first time she read them. So did Beatrice. But by the 6th week, the letters stopped. It wasn't just forgetfulness. Something had happened. In Ghana, the academy was a world unlike any Alina had ever known. Red earth, golden sun, girls from every continent with different accents, braided hair, bright notebooks, bold ideas. She no longer felt like the daughter of a billionaire. She felt like a girl with purpose. She was elected team leader of the Science Innovation Group within the first month. Beatrice taught cooking classes at the local community center near the school, passing on recipes and sold to anyone who listened. Locals adored her. Students sought her counsel. She had become, in every corner of that small town, a lighthouse. But in Connecticut, storms were brewing. Maxwell Colburn had disappeared. Not entirely, but in all the ways that mattered. After a hostile takeover attempt of his European holdings and a PR scandal tied to an AI surveillance product, Maxwell vanished from the public eye. No press conferences, no statements, not even replies to his board. His properties were sold off in pieces, and rumors spread. Some said bankruptcy, others said illness, still others whispered madness. Alina received a call 2 months later, a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated, answered, "Hello." A pause, then a voice, weak, raspy. "Alina, it's me." "Dad." "I need help," he said. Beatrice was on the first plane back to New York with her. They found him in a rented room above a closed bookstore in Brooklyn. The one-shot man was unshaven, thin, eyes bloodshot. He opened the door like a ghost stepping into light. He tried to smile. "Couldn't. I lost everything," he whispered. "But I had to see you." Alina didn't cry. She stepped forward, wrapped her arms around him, and said, "You didn't lose everything." Beatrice stood behind her, her expression unreadable. Over the next week, they moved him into a quiet assisted flat near a park, cleaned him up, got him seen by doctors. Depression, burnout, stress collapse, early heart warning. The doctors said if no one had come, he may have stopped eating altogether. Beatrice cooked for him every night. The same cinnamon rolls on Thursdays. One night, he looked up from his plate and whispered, "Why are you doing this? After everything." Beatrice sat across from him, calm, because a little boy who once saved a crying woman on the stairs is still in there somewhere. And because your daughter needs you, not as a billionaire, not as a man on magazine covers, just as a father. Tears slid down his cheeks. Alina walked him in the park each morning, read him the poems she wrote, told him about the project her academy was funding, a clean water initiative for remote villages. She showed him her design, her graphs. He smiled, truly smiled. One morning, while looking at the sunrise, Maxwell turned to her and said, "You know what the worst thing about being rich is?" Alina laughed. "No. You start thinking you can buy back time, and then you realize, too late, that the only currency that ever mattered was presence." She squeezed his hand. "You're here now." They walked in silence, until Maxwell stopped under a tree and said, "I want to go with you, back to Ghana." "What?" "I want to see it. I want to see what you're building." She grinned. "Miss B.A. already booked your ticket." He laughed, a sound neither of them had heard in years. Ghana welcomed him like an old man seeking his soul. He sat in classrooms with wide-eyed girls, listened to their ideas, their ambition, watched Alina command a room with quiet authority and grace, saw Beatrice greet market vendors by name, barter with laughter, teach little boys how to roll dough with love. For the first time in decades, Maxwell stopped searching for power and started watching people. Really watching. One afternoon, he sat beneath a baobab tree with Beatrice. "She's more you than me," he said. "No," she replied. "She's herself." He looked at her, long and full. "I never told you the real reason I gave you that sandwich," he said. Beatrice tilted her head. "It wasn't pity," he said. "I had just lost my mother the week before. I saw you crying and I didn't want to feel alone." Beatrice smiled. "You never why." Silence again. Then, why didn't we ever become more? She turned her gaze toward the setting sun. Because I was always waiting for you to see me. Not the help, not the past. Me. He reached for her hand. I see you now. Their hands touched, held. In the following months, they worked side by side, Maxwell donating what remained of his fortune, not to rebuild a company, but to expand the girls' academy into 3 more regions. Alina gave speeches around Africa and Europe, her voice firm, her message simple. We don't need to be saved. We need to be seen. The world noticed. Her story made headlines. Billionaire's daughter chooses purpose over privilege. From estate to earth, Alina Colburn's global mission. But she didn't care. Her eyes were focused forward. Beatrice became principal of the academy. Maxwell became its gardener. One day, a young girl asked him, "Sir, were you really rich once?" He smiled. "I'm richer now." And then, one night, beneath the stars in a quiet corner of Ghana, a letter arrived for Alina. Handwritten. No return address. It read, "You became the woman I never had the courage to be. You made a choice. You saw love, and you followed it. No matter what happens next, remember, you saved me, too. Mom." Alina folded the letter, looked at the stars, and smiled.